Phase 3 is coming. Now's the best time to fix what you dislike about your guild. Whether you are a GM, raid lead, officer, or even just a guy playing with some personalities that you enjoy. Being candid with people is the real key, of course, but that can be really hard to do. Being candid means being truthful about how you feel, but you've likely convinced yourself that the way you feel doesn't matter, or that your feelings matter less than the feelings of the people who are upsetting you. Or at least that what you want isn't worth the conflict or the smoke that is involved in putting them on notice. You need to do this. Build authority through accountability. Create conviction within yourself by becoming sold on your beliefs. You need to deeply believe them. And then once you have the authority and the conviction, you need to set boundaries with people so that way things go to plan when you interact with them. If you already have authority in your guild, great. But if you don't, you need to get some. And the way you do that is by taking accountability so that way you can earn equity in the guild or the raid team and make it better. You earn it through making the team better, making the experience better for everybody involved. You can't get it any other way. And specifically, you want it to be better in the eyes of people who have some form of authority. Whether it's through their gameplay skill or they literally hold the keys to the guild or the raid. You need to make sure that these people that you're trying to convince actually have a large impact on the guild. You don't want to try to fix a guild from the ground up. It's not a great way to go about it. Remember, we want to get the most bang for our buck with these painful actions. Fix it from the top down. A lot of the people who are on the sidelines of the guild or very far from power aren't great players. Well, they're there for a reason. Usually it's because they actually are just not very invested in the success of the team, in their own personal gameplay. These are not people that are really worth selling to. And also, it might just seem like you're trying to start an insurrection in your guild. That's a bad look, but it's also a bad idea. Focusing on the least involved people is a surefire way to stress yourself out and get nowhere. It's almost for sure going to bring a lot of conflict too, because their lack of caring basically means that they're super opposed to your ideas by default. And I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't try to win everyone over, but what I am trying to say is if you're worried about how you're going to fix your guild, you really want to take actions where you get some kind of reward right away, where you get a lot of efficiency in the pain you're going to put yourself through. Because this isn't going to be easy, but it is going to be worth it. And also, not every guild has a culture that is recoverable or fixable. And if you start with the key players first and find out that you're getting nowhere, that's the best time to figure out is right at the start. You don't want to convince yourself that these people who aren't very involved are actually on your side. They might just tell you what you want to hear because they might not care. And then you might find out the GM doesn't care either. And then you're toast. Don't waste your time. Guild management needs to be kept at arm's length. You can't be super sold on the specific guild you're in. If you're never willing to step away, you don't truly have any leverage and you're not going to get anywhere. So it's very important to always understand that maybe the right guild or the best guild isn't the one you're in. If you have that belief, you'll be less stressed out and you're less likely to waste a bunch of time. You need to be bought in on your own beliefs about what's right. You need to be so certain of yourself that you can defend your ideas from any side, because you're going to have to. And you don't want to have to rely on being brave when dealing with the necessary conflict to get what you want implemented. Imagine arguing a moral point versus arguing a math one, like 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. The moral point probably requires some bravery. It requires some faith in your ideas. You don't want that. You want certainty. That's much easier to defend. The math argument, it's easier to deliver. You need to cement your beliefs in your head. If you aren't certain about what you believe, why should people be certain about what you're saying, certain about you, certain about your ideas? It just doesn't make sense. gain certainty. Here's one example of what I believe. People who bitch about loot and perform poorly in raids have no rights in a raid team. None whatsoever. That's a thing I firmly believe, and I've been hit with the fairness argument before after saying things like that. And I'll immediately go to things like, oh, so I owe you something? What do I owe you? What have you done for me? Show up to the raid and bitch? You're lucky to be in this group. If I performed and acted like you, this group would no longer exist. I don't even owe you the opportunity to improve, much less gear over those who make the raid and the guild better. People will call me rude, and I'll ask them, is it rude when people no-call, no-show? How hard is it to simply let people know you won't be able to make it? What about when they obviously disregard what's being said in raid and they're not paying attention? Is that rude? Why should I have to deal with it? I am the one that has the power. Why shouldn't I just end this situation right now? Why do I owe it to them when they don't act like they owe me anything? What do the naysayers have? Low DPS? A bad attitude? Easily replaceable. Would you trust them to lead the raid? If it was me or them, which side would you pick? What makes more sense? This leads into setting boundaries with people online. If I got to that last part where I'm asking them which side would they pick, most likely the kind of person that I would ever say that to would have no more second chances at that point. I would know that they don't take me seriously and they'd rather the guild explode so they can have their way for a short period of time. One more peep of resistance and they'd be out. They'd be out of the Discord, they'd be out of the raid team, and I'd let people know what they said to me, what they were trying to do, because people like that, they would much rather even accidentally make you look stupid and ruin a good thing for everyone than admit fault and not get their way, even though they offer nothing to anybody else. They only take. Most boundary setting goes like this. It's pretty simple. You cannot shit talk people as a rank and file member ever during raid, ever. You cannot shit talk people during raid as a leadership figure unless it directly relates to the current raid and you're trying to get them to change a behavior in that moment, or if they're shit talking someone else or in some way damaging social cohesion. Low performers should know that they exist on borrowed time and they need to improve quickly. They're not to be given weeks and weeks and weeks. It's a bad idea. People who no-call, no-show permanently forfeit their spot. And what I mean by that is you double book their slot, all right? Somebody no-calls, no-shows on you once, you no longer owe them the certainty that they'll have a spot. Double book it. Let them in on the whims of the raid team's goals. That's how it should be. If they ever no-call, no-show, they never have a good reason for it. But they'll make one up. But really, they never have a good reason. Of course, if someone's a very good raider and they do this, you can let them raid. But just remember, you need to be prepared for if they don't show up again. And I suggest that if they do it, the very next raid, you sit them with 0 notice to show them that you take this fucking seriously. Because if you don't, they're going to think that they earned it by doing good DPS. Having 24 people is a huge disadvantage, or 39 or 9. You can't let people think that their good performance one week lets them screw you the next. Potentially, if you do this, someone will freak out in Discord, and if they do, you need to admonish them in front of the entire raid and explain why you're doing it. Most likely, this person's going to tweak out a bit. You might want to mute them, so that way they don't make a total ass of themselves. Who knows? But after doing that, you don't want to start the raid right away. You need to let people chill out for a second. They'll probably really appreciate that you did it, but you don't want to start the raid while everyone's got this adrenaline going. Last minute cancellations must be extremely rare from someone. There's almost never a reason that people can't give you more notice. And if you sense that they're lying to you about the reason, then you know they're willing to lie to you and they've compromised their sincerity. If this happens, you should not trust this person ever again. You need to keep it in mind and you need to act on that knowledge. Don't make excuses for fucking liars. It will destroy your group. Something that you may want to do if someone lies is that you simply don't let them in the next raid and you give them zero notice, and they'll ask you why. And then you need to be really sure that they're a liar because they're going to ask in front of everybody, what do you mean? And then you air their dirty laundry and you're like, I don't like how you fucking lied to me. It's bad for the group. Everybody needs to be able to trust each other. I think you're a fucking liar. And if you ever do anything like that again, you're out. Okay? This is what he said to me, everybody. Do you honestly believe it? That kind of shit is important. Prove to your group that dishonesty will be massively punished. It's very important that people trust each other, especially when it's such a commitment to play World of Warcraft, regardless of how much you raid. If you do this stuff, your group, your raid, your guild will seem awesome in your eyes, regardless of how well the raids actually go, because at least you'll know that everyone's on the same page, they respect each other, and they respect you. But if you intend on having an amazing raid team, these things are absolutely essential. You cannot give up on them. You need to be convicted about what you believe. You need to be approachable to your raiders, but you also need to be certain. You need to be predictable and approachable to your raiders. They should know what you think, but you don't owe everyone blind kindness. People will mistake your kindness for weakness, and they'll assume that if you let them push you around, that they're not pushing you around at all, that this is a normal interaction and that you enjoy it. They'll think that they're being a good person, actually. So you need to be firm and candid, or you're setting yourself up to fail. And through all this, you need to slice through bullshit with your words using logic and conviction. It's very, very important that you're sure of how right you are. Of course, if you're wrong about things and you have bad ideas, this will blow your guild up. But probably if you're willing to do this, you're right. And you deserve to have a good guild. And you're probably a kind person who feels like they've been taken advantage of by their guildies. I'm friends with most of the good raiders from my ex guild, and I'm not enemies with pretty much any of them. There's a couple people that I think probably don't like me, but pretty much everyone either loves me and we talk often, or we just don't talk at all, because it's been a lot of people over a lot of years. There's maybe 10 people that I talk to on a daily/weekly basis that I led a year and a half ago. And there's other people that I haven't led in 5 years that I still talk to. And there's a whole bunch in between the 1.5 and 5 year mark that I talk to often as well. I used to get pushed around in my own guilds a very long time ago. Guilds where I did everything for the guild. And I have less people from those poorly ran guilds that I used to lead that are my friends now than in these guilds where I was very serious and respected myself, where I crucified people who were trying to harm the guild's mission. I once had a mage that complained that he got sat in the 3rd raid of Wrath of the Lich King because he no-called no-showed our 2nd run, and it was a world top 50 time. It was a big deal. It really, really endangered the mission. And he said it in front of everybody in Discord. And I lit him the fuck up in front of everyone. I told him that he forfeited my kindness. That he's lucky to be here at all. That he decided the time he saved by not letting me know was more important than the 24 other people's time and what they wanted to accomplish. I told him how we had sat somebody so he had a for sure spot, and that we had to get a non-raider in last minute and delay the start of the raid because of him. I also let him know that he was the lowest performing caster and the least prepared in the run he did show up to, and that most people would have kicked him from the guild immediately given his lack of preparation and performance. I let him know that I wanted to give him a second chance because I had just met him, and then he did this to me. He tried to muster support for his shitty decisions in front of my guild before my raid. He left Discord after sheepishly saying sorry, and I told the guild that I needed a second to go calm down, that I wasn't proud that I had to do that, but that I firmly believed in it, and fuck that guy. My friends still bring that story up years later. And it's funny to them, and they appreciate that it happened. And there's other stories like that too, where I lit people up. And when they lit people up on my behalf for endangering our guild and our fun, they know that I will prioritize them and the raid above stupid people's opinions. And I know they'll prioritize me and my sanity in the raid over being weak and just agreeing with the crowd. These people have been through multiple guilds with me, and they know that they might follow me into a guild that I decide has gone the wrong direction and I cancel it. And that's a pain in their ass. But they think it's worth it given the respect I give to them and their time and their ability to perform while it's operating. And they give me the same respect. I appreciate their time and the effort they put in. And most importantly, I appreciate the results they bring to themselves and other people, massively. There's a reason big leadership figures of the past aren't lauded for their kindness, but for their sincerity, their conviction, their results, and their judgment above all else. Moral arguments are dumb, but you really owe it to yourself to have a guild that you love running. It's absolutely insane that you don't prioritize your sanity and how you feel when you're putting the most effort in and you drive the results more than anybody else. Get to max level fast at the start of the next phase. Find new people to join. Set boundaries with them and kick the naysayers. Treat yourself with the same level of care and respect that you used to treat those degenerate members in your guild that would rather see you fail than not get their way for a brief period of time. And then most importantly, click all of my YouTube videos so that way the algorithm helps me out. See y'all later, you fucking nerds.